Okay, so let's talk about interactive communication. Here we looked at the speaker's ability to participate in an interactive discussion. And we are looking especially at task 3 when we evaluate our students. This includes the ability to maintain flow, ask for clarification, and move the conversation forward by actively engaging with what is being said. So if we move on to our first question, can the speaker maintain simple exchanges without difficulty? And by without difficulty, we mean without prompting from the other speaker, the interviewer, and or persistent interruptions to interaction due to a lack of understanding. So here we consider whether the discussion can be maintained without interruptions or a serious lack of flow. This can often be seen by the interviewers having to prompt the speaker to continue to speak or to participate, or there being frequent pauses when the speaker cannot understand what is being said. Sometimes the speaker may need to pause and ask a question to clarify what's being said because they don't understand the question asked by the interviewer. And when this happens, we say that they are not able to maintain simple exchanges. Yes, I keep forgetting this slide. But you can see the two conditions that need to be met. If the speaker maintains exchanges without prompting, and there are no frequent interruptions. But when we do see that the speaker cannot maintain simple exchanges without being prompted or without having to pause or ask for clarity, then we say that we would say yes to this question and move on to the lower second question. So here, can the speaker ask for repetition and or clarification when she does not understand? We're talking about instances where there is a pause or interruption in the conversation because the speaker the student could not understand what was being said, and they want to know whether they have the ability to clarify that situation by asking for the repetition of the question or clarify, or for the interviewer to clarify what they are asking. And again, if they can, then they will receive a 2. If they cannot, and you can probably see this when there is a long pause and they are looking confused for a long time and unable to ask questions, they will get a 1. So moving back to that first question, if they are able to maintain simple exchanges without difficulty, yes. So right, we have just talked about this. Moving back to that first question, if they are able to maintain simple exchanges without prompting or interruptions, then we move on to this upper question. Can the speaker move the discussion forward, develop it, and negotiate towards an outcome, doing both with very little support? So again, there are a lot of conditions that need to be met for this question. One is that the speaker can move the discussion forward. The other is that the speaker can negotiate towards an outcome. And the speaker must be able to do these both on their own. Right, so what do we mean by the speaker moving the discussion forward? An example of this would be when you are having a conversation and the speaker can will have some control over the flow of the conversation. for example, if you are talking about, let's say, hobbies, they're talking about their favorite hobbies, and then the speaker might want to add another topic. So what about other activities that you do outdoors, or maybe something that's happened in, or something that they are planning to have, a hobby that they're planning to pick up. So moving the discussion towards a slightly different or developed topic can be an example of moving the discussion forward. By the speaker negotiating towards an outcome, what we mean by this is the speaker would have an opinion, right? And when they are talking about a certain topic, they would have moments when their opinions come together. They may agree or they may disagree, but when they do agree or disagree, the speaker should be able to negotiate at that moment between the two opinions. So if the speaker, let's say, agrees with something that has been previously just been said, they could say something like, I agree with what you've said, and then maybe add an example of their own to sort of reinforce that opinion. When they don't agree with something that has been previously said, they might say, that's a very interesting point that you make, but have you also considered this? And sort of try to wedge in that other opinion that they have and try to, again, negotiate towards a different direction. So these are the abilities that we're looking for in this question. And if both capabilities are seen, then we would give them a yes. If the speaker is unable to do either one, for instance, they are not able to move the discussion forward, or they are not negotiating opinions, then they would receive or follow the lower arrow. So can you see an example of what we could see? But again, this is not like the only thing that you could see, but you get the idea. Okay, so when they do not meet both conditions, we move to this question. Our response is mostly short, underdeveloped, and or repetitive of what's been said before. We again have three conditions that have to be met. One is that responses are mostly short and simple. The second is that they are underdeveloped. And the third is that they're repetitive of what's been said before. So there is an overlap for condition C with fluency, current development that we looked at before. But again, it's important in interactive communication. And looking at condition A, so responses are mostly short and simple. We say that they are short and simple when they are they don't elaborate, right? We talked about in fluency, in FCD, we talked about extended stretches of speech, but this would be like the opposite of that. They would be very simple, not adding information. I think in most cases, it would be close to a single sentence, a single response. And this brings us to the second condition, where responses are underdeveloped. Again, there's a strong connection to FCD that we talked about before. And here we call responses underdeveloped when, again, there are no layers to the information that is given. So they may introduce something, add details, examples, or any other description that can more develop, like fully develop that idea. But when they do not, they will not be, they will be described by this condition. So here we would say that we would say yes to this question if at least 2 are met, right? So let's say someone, you know, their responses are not very short. They do talk a lot, right? Their utterances are long, but the utterances do not add to development. And they are mostly repetitive of what has been said before. Even in those situations, we would say that this person meets these, the 2 conditions, and say yes, which would bring us to the lower score, 3 that you see here. If they do not meet 2, but just 1, let's say either their responses are short or their responses are underdeveloped or repetitive. So just one of them, and they would be able to receive a 4. So this brings us to the last question in the rubric for the high, the 5 and 6 levels. And the question, does the speaker generally engage with your contributions, would decide either whether they get a 5 or a 6. And by generally engaging with your contributions, we mean that like not only do they agree or disagree, but they go deeper into it. For example, when they agree with something that has been said, they might say, I agree with what you said about, and then add on their take of what's been said. They might sort of like summarize or paraphrase what's been said and add on another opinion. So basically engaging in a more active way, their ideas would mesh with the ideas from who they're talking with. In a case where they don't agree, instead of just saying, you make a good point, but what about this, as in the previous example that we saw, but they want to elaborate further, right? You make a good point, and what point do they think is good, right? So they would add on their opinion about what they thought was good, and then they would turn the direction and add on to, but what if, right? And elaborate their own opinions. So that is what we see as engaging with contributions, right, which will give them a score of 6. If they do not, if they are just, as we saw in the previous question, so if they're just negotiating, if they just move discussions forward and not really engage, then they will still get a 5. So yes, this is interactive communication. And I wonder if Danielle has any comments to make.
I'm both afraid and relieved that I don't. I don't think so. I think it's been a very thorough review. So I think we got pretty much everything covered. Yeah.